Hello students, this week we'll be talking about complex characters, specifically what is a complex character, what's important about them, how do I identify and analyze character complexity, and how do I answer test questions about complex characters. So what is a complex character? A complex character, also known as a round or dynamic character, has these traits. They undergo an important change at some point in the story, they are well developed, and they have many conflicting sides of their personality. This means that their motivations and the way they act go in many different directions. So they may be saying one thing but thinking another, or they may have various reasons for doing something or not doing something depending on the circumstance that they're in. So we'll look at an example. Jose wants to run for class president to gain experience in a leadership role, but he's afraid that his friends will think he just wants to seem more important than them. So he overcomes this fear after talking with his friends about his goals. This is a kind of quick example here, but we can see that he has different conflicting personality traits here, different motivations, where one motivation is that he wants to gain experience in a leadership role, but he also has the conflicting motivation that he doesn't want to seem a certain way to his friends. And we can also see that he goes through a change here because that he does overcome this fear by talking to his friends about his goals. So this guy would be a complex character. So what is not a complex character? A simple character, conversely, has these traits. They don't undergo an important change. They may be described quite a bit, but they only have one side of their personality. So they don't seem one way but act another, etc. So their motivations and the way they act consistently only go in one direction. And again, they could be described quite a bit, but all of their descriptions are all still kind of going in the same direction. There's not like competing personality traits or competing motivations kind of a thing. So here's an example. Jake is the head of the basketball team. He has a goal to become a professional basketball player one day. He's grateful that his parents support his goals, and he often tries to encourage other students to join the team. He is a good player, and he is supportive of his teammates. He also shows good leadership skills when playing or practicing. So here we see there's quite a bit of description about kind of what he is like, but you'll know that they're all kind of consistent, that he is consistently kind of described as this good head of the basketball team, and everything is kind of going in that direction. Even though there is some layers of depth and even a bit of a backstory perhaps, we don't see like conflicting sides there, and there's no real change that we can see in Jake. So therefore he would actually be a simple character, even though he had quite a few details that it said about him. Alright, so what is important about complex characters? Why are they important? So complex characters usually affect the theme or the message of the story, which of course is quite important if you remember from a previous message on or video on theme. So the change that occurs in a complex character can oftentimes reveal the story's main theme. So for example, if John learns that through some experience in the story, he should be respectful of others if he wants respect in return, then you could simply say that the theme would be that people should be respectful of others if they want respect in return. Sometimes it's really that simple that you just kind of take what they learned, and that very well might be the theme. This wouldn't be the case if you can identify that the complex character's change isn't a good one. So usually it's pretty obvious if the character made a good change or a bad change, and then you could kind of assess what you think the author thinks would be a good message here. So if they changed for the good, then that would be the theme. And if they change for the bad, then maybe avoid that, and that would be a theme. So those are some thoughts on that. Another important thing about complex characters is that the way they develop, interact with others, and undergo change will also affect the plot or the storyline of the story, which should be pretty obvious, but we'll talk about it anyway. So the various motivations of a complex character will affect the decisions that they make and why they make them. So if they had chosen to follow a different motivation, the story may have a very different outcome. So our takeaway from that would be that the ability to identify a complex character, what change they go through, and what motivations that they have, these can all help you interpret both the plot and theme of the story. So how do I identify a complex character? You can ask yourself these two questions about a character. First, do they go through an important change, particularly to their way of thinking? So for example, did they overcome a fear? Did they change their mind about something? Were they scarred by some sort of trauma? Those would be examples of changes that they might go through. And then, do they have conflicting motivations or personality traits? That would be the other question to ask. So for example, does Jimmy seem like he is put together, but inwardly he is a total mess? If you answer yes to both of those two questions, then the character would be complex. And where would you find these answers to these questions? Well, you just basically look everywhere the character is. So where the character interacts with other characters, you can see if he or she is consistent among all those interactions, or does the character change at all, or is there variation maybe? You could also look at the character's thoughts and actions and words, and are these consistent, or is there a change, or is there variation in those? So you can kind of look at pretty much anywhere that the character is, or that they're thinking, or making decisions, or interacting with other characters, and just kind of answer those questions there to see if they're complex and kind of what makes them complex and all that good stuff. Okay, so how do I analyze a complex character for meaning? So we have already identified that a character is complex, so now we want to see how we can analyze that for meaning. So first of all, of course, you want to identify what they were or what they believed and what they changed to. Did they learn a lesson? This lesson could be the theme, or it could point to the theme, like we were saying earlier. And you could also try to identify what conflicting motivations they have. Why would they act, say, or think one way here, but then act, say, or think a different way here or there? And what causes this difference? So you can kind of analyze what motivations they have. So here's an example. Sam works hard to get an A on a test, but when he gets it, he hides it from his friends. Why isn't he considered consistent here? Could it be that he doesn't want to appear better than them? Maybe his friends think it isn't cool to get A's, so he hides it to appear dumb. What do you think the author suggests is the right thing for him to do? Maybe that's a major or minor theme of the story, just identifying that right thing. How would the plot be changed if he had taken, or if he had chosen to do something differently? Would it have caused problems or solved one very easily? Maybe this could also point to a theme. So again, just looking at kind of what's happening. Is there a right thing that the character should have done, or did they do the right thing? And then if they had done something differently, would it have changed it? Those are all some questions you can kind of ask and analyze while you're kind of thinking through what the theme might be, what the author's message in the story might be. Okay, so how do I answer test questions about complex characters? Well, once you've gone through all those things, you can consider any lessons they learned or changes that they went through. You want to consider what motivations the character may have in this situation, in the test question. You want to look for evidence that states or suggests the right answer, because we know answers they're not always super straightforward. Sometimes you have to interpret a little bit. And of course, you always want to pick the best answer and not just a good one or a tricky answer. Always go for the best one. Alright, so let's look at this example test question, taken from Star Wars because I like Star Wars. So how does the following line from Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, show a change in Anakin as a character? So we're going to go ahead and read this little passage here, or excerpt. Anakin, something's happening. I'm not the Jedi I should be. I am one of the most powerful Jedi, but I'm not satisfied. I want more, and I know I shouldn't. Padme, you expect too much of yourself. They stop in front of the window in the bedroom. Anakin puts his hand on her belly. I have found a way to save you. Save me? From my nightmares. Is that what's been bothering you? I won't lose you, Padme. I'm not going to die in childbirth, Annie. I promise you. No, I promise you. I'm becoming so powerful with my new knowledge of the Force, I'll be able to keep you from dying. Okay, so there's our excerpt from the passage there, so just a reminder of our question. How does the following line from this movie show a change in Anakin as a character? So we're trying to see, how does this show a change in him as a character? So let's go through the answer choices and then kind of go through our strategies. It shows he only cares for power. It shows he is ashamed of his power. It shows his fear is making him power hungry. It shows he doesn't agree with the Jedi codes anymore. Okay, so we're going to try to break down how we can find the right answer here given those options. So first of all, with our first strategy, we want to consider any lessons that Anakin learned or any changes that he went through. So first and foremost, I know that, I'm sorry for spoilers, but I know that Anakin loses his mom earlier in the Jedi or Star Wars saga, and I know that that is a traumatic experience that changes him and develops him as a character. So there, he's kind of scarred by that somehow, and he seems kind of fearful of not wanting that to happen again. He doesn't want to lose other people, and so that's certainly changed him. So I'm keeping that in mind, considering that. Another thing to consider is what motivations he has. So I can see a few different motivations, two ones. A lot of it's in this first line here. I'm not the Jedi I should be. I am the most powerful Jedi, but I'm not satisfied. I want more. So there seems to be this conflict of what a Jedi is and what he knows that a Jedi should be. And he is a Jedi, so he kind of sticks with those Jedi codes. But then he wants to be more than that, and that is mainly because of power, specifically the power to save Padme. He wants that power. So those are kind of our conflicting motivations there. Then of course we want to look at evidence in the passage. So of course those lines I was just pointing out, that he's not the Jedi I should be, that he wants more powerful, and then at the end there, that I will be able to keep you from dying. Those kind of show, that kind of gives evidence toward what we might be looking for a right answer. And then of course we always want to pick the best answer and not just a good one. So let's look at these answer choices again. It shows he only cares for power. So here we see that that couldn't be the right answer, because we know that even though he does care for power, specifically the power to keep people from dying, we also see that conflicting motivation that he knows that he's not the Jedi I should be. And I think that should be is really an indicator that he cares more about just power. I don't think he's just in it for power. I think there is a conflicting motivation, even if it's maybe not as strong. It's still there. So I would say probably a no, that he doesn't just care for power. It shows that he is ashamed of his power. I could see this maybe a little bit. So this might be a decent option, but I would say that he is saying that he is the most powerful Jedi, and that would actually indicate kind of the opposite, that maybe he's proud of that he's a very powerful Jedi, but maybe he's just ashamed that he's wanting more. So that's a possibility, but I'm not leaning towards it, but it's still a possibility. And it also doesn't really tap into too much the other motivation, so we'll see. It shows his fear is making him power hungry. This one is definitely kind of hitting both the motivations there, that he is fearful, and that's why he's becoming power hungry. That's kind of his motivation against kind of sticking to the Jedi codes. So that's probably the right answer, but for good practice, we're going to read D as well. shows he doesn't agree with the Jedi codes anymore. Possibly, but I don't know, that should be the Jedi I should be. I don't know if he necessarily doesn't agree with them so much as he just wants a bit more than the Jedi codes can offer him. So I would definitely go with C here, because it definitely taps into that fact that the reason he is going with this, the change really in Anakin, is that he's changing from the Jedi that he should be and towards kind of this power-hungry thing because he's motivated to save her from dying. So that's why we would go with C. But anyway, hopefully this video was helpful for you with understanding complex characters and how to find them and why it's important and how that relates to theme and plot and all that good stuff. And hopefully this will help you answer test questions as well about this. And see you next time.